views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Coming up on this edition of Today's Verdict, it is known as Me Too, and it is defined as an international movement against sexual harassment and assault. It is a movement that has affected many in our community. But what laws are in place to protect you from harassment? On set with us today is an attorney who specializes in defending individuals who are harassed in the workplace. Next up, a divorce proceeding can take years off your life, and just when you think it's over, your ex-spouse can head back to court seeking a modification. Our family law expert is here to help guide you through the process. And finally, many children would like to be free of the constraints imposed on them by their parents. But what if a child truly wants to be emancipated? Is it possible, and how does one go about it? Well, let's find out. As you can see, we have much to get to, so stay tuned. Today's Verdict starts right now. Hello, and welcome to Today's Verdict, the live and interactive show that gives you your legal rights and options. I'm your host and trial attorney, David Lesch. Today's Verdict is always encouraging you to stay connected. Make sure to tweet us at Today's Verdict and hashtag Ask Today's Verdict if you have a question. Also, make sure to like us and follow us at Facebook at Today's Verdict, and check us out at bronxnet.tv. The Me Too movement began spreading virally in October of 2017. The now famous hashtag helped alert the world to the widespread sexual abuse of women in the workplace and beyond. Well, here to tell us more, we welcome back Rania Sedholm. Rania, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back, David.
Me Too. First, we were talking off set. We had no idea that Alyssa Milano actually started this whole Me Too movement.
That's true.
Am I wrong there?
No, you're right.
I know she looked at it from somebody else's perspective back in 2006, but she coined the phrase in some respect, and now look at where we are, and I think it's one of the reasons we have you back. The Me Too movement is leading to a sexual harassment revolution. Do you see that in your practice? Do you see women and men complaining about what's going on in the workplace?
I think I see less fear, which is really a key to stopping sexual harassment in the workplace. And there are some laws that are going to be coming down the pike for us New Yorkers in January, so stay tuned, where we are going to have mandatory sexual harassment training.
Is it going to be all private companies, public, a little of both?
Well, as you know, the governor and the mayor are sort of at odds right now, so I don't know how to answer the question because they both set forth what their plan is, and it's not congruent. So we have to wait and see them battle it out, and in January, hopefully all will be revealed and we'll know more.
So many employees, though, are still complaining that whatever it is that's happening to them is still getting pushed under the rug.
Yes, that's true.
Why? Even with the movement and everything that's going on with the news, how is it still happening?
I think there are a couple of factors, at play here. The first one is fear. It's not just the victim that may be afraid to come forward when they do, have enough courage to bring it to HR. HR may be afraid, depending on who it is that you're complaining about. I mean, just think about it from their perspective. Here I go, I'm HR. I have to tell the boss, the person whose name's on the wall, that someone complained about him sexually harassing, one of the female employees, as an example.
I know in Washington they had this cooling off policy.
Yes.
Where if an intern or somebody wanted to complain about a congressman or a senator, they had to have a 24-hour cooling off process
Yes.
to decide whether they really wanted to, implicate the politician,
right.
Which they're trying to get rid of, by the way. Does that happen in real life? Does that happen here in New York? Does HR say, why don't you go upstairs and think about it for a little while before you really want to go after your supervisor? Does that happen?
I don't think that happens with HR, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened with your manager. If you are chummy with your manager, depending again on who you want to complain about, you may be told to reconsider and make sure that what you think happened actually happened.
Because this could follow you for a long time. They might threatened or
There is some of that, yes.
it's still around.
It is still around, definitely. And I think also the people who are investigating, the managers, the HR professionals, don't know how to investigate. They don't know what to ask. They don't know who to ask. They don't know how much time they should take to investigate the matter and then how to bring it forward without getting anyone in trouble.
Well, that's a lot. So
that's a lot,
So out of that, what seems to be the most important thing to fix? The initial investigation, the follow-through. Where would you say the fault lies the most?
I think we have to start at the very top and explain that the workplace is a place where everyone should feel safe, at the very least, right? I mean, nobody wants to go to work and worrying about, oh my God, what's going to happen to me there today. It's enough to worry about money and salary and all of that, those issues. So I think we have to start at the top and advise people that if something happens that's serious, like sexual harassment, you cannot blame the victim. And you have to work together so this issue is resolved permanently.
Every once in a while, and this is a very difficult segment to do this on. I like to play devil's advocate, but it's very difficult to do that here.
Yes.
But I assume somewhere along the line, from the employer's perspective, they would like a little protection when it comes to this.
Right.
Is there anything? Is there insurance that they can get to maybe protect them from these harassment claims, or something to help protect them from a possible fraudulent claim? They do happen.
They do happen, and of course, that is just as bad as the actual sexual harassment that's taking place. No one should be lying or pretending to be a part of the Me Too movement if it hasn't occurred to them. Insurance is difficult because sexual harassment is something that most people would think is done on purpose, right? It's difficult to negligently harass somebody.
It's not a negligent harassment.
Yeah, usually you know what you're doing.
Right.
You may not perceive.
Well, some people may not. They should.
Well, they don't perceive that it's wrong, but you don't accidentally assault somebody, right? So there's no insurance for that. But I think if you train people on how to conduct a proper investigation, you'll be able to determine whether it's a fraudulent claim or not. And one thing that I tell my clients, for example, is when you are speaking to somebody, either keep the door open or have someone else in the room with you.
Well, but what if it's a matter that you want closed because it's something that you're working on that you wouldn't want other employees to know? They don't want you to steal your idea?
Most companies have some kind of very high-level secretary, capital S secretary, and that person knows all the secrets anyway.
Right.
Have them sit in the meeting with you.
On a little bit of an off topic, even Derek Jeter and a lot of celebrities, when they're dating or they're with people, a lot of times they keep doors open and they have staff sit outside, outside the rooms.
Right.
Just in case.
In case.
Not such a bad idea.
It's not a bad idea.
Some final tips you want to give maybe to somebody who's watching today and thinks they may be a victim or they believe they are a victim.
If you think that you're a victim, you should not, keep that inside. You should tell somebody who can help you. That person is either going to be your manager or HR. You can pick and choose whomever you feel more comfortable with, advise of what happened, and then ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions like, what should I do now? What can be done? I'm so scared. I'm so uncomfortable. Whatever it is that you're feeling.
Can you record these conversations when you come in? Can you put your iPhone right on the desk, hit record, and say, I want to tell you what happened to me with Bob in accounting. This is what Bob did to me, and he touched me here, and then he said something about my skirt, and he made me cry, and it's all on record right now. You hear, I'm recording you. Can you do that?
You are permitted to record in New York. We're what we call a single party permission state. So as long as you say okay to yourself, you have one person's permission. However, you need to be careful when you're recording to make sure that everything that you're saying is actually true, because it will also be used against you.
Could be used against you as well.
Correct.
Where do we find you, most importantly?
You can find me right near Grand Central.
All right.
212-549-1819 if you want to call.
All right. And let me put you a little bit on the spot here, but where do you think we're going with the Me Too movement? Do you think it's going to start fading? Every time you think it's going to fade, somebody comes out, whether it's Morgan Freeman or somebody comes out from the media, and we're right back there.
Well, I'm hoping it'll fade because it'll stop happening.
Right,
So
well-
I'm hoping for the fade, but I think that we have a very long way to go, and I think it's not enough to just have sexual harassment training. Most people know sexual harassment is forbidden. I don't think that's the issue. I think it's more, again, training people
I
that...
think it's going to take a while.
It will, but you know, you're not at home at the workplace,
Right.
and I think we need to have more training about that and about the investigation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, we have to take a quick break, but don't worry, we'll be back with more Today's Verdict right after this.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with dachshund breeding.
No.
Let me try. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out words.
Playing world music.
What?
I give up.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues to help your child thrive.
All right, welcome back to Today's Verdict. I'm your host, David Lesch. We are always encouraging you to stay connected. Tweet us at Today's Verdict. After your divorce has been finalized, it is possible for your ex-spouse to take you back to court for modification of your divorce agreement. Courts only reconsider post-divorce modification if there has been a substantial enough change that can justify the modification. We'll learn more with attorney John Tufel. John, how are you?
I'm good, David. How are you?
All right, well, listen, I get this topic emailed all the time.
Okay.
So I'm really, really glad you're here.
Sure.
But let's maybe take a step back. And the initial husband and wife, because they're really still married at this point, they decide to go and seek the court intervention and get a divorce. What is usually in that initial order?
If you are lucky enough to settle your case via agreement and not have a judge decide everything, which takes it completely out of your control, then that agreement is really going to govern every legal and other aspect of your relationship with your former partner going forward.
So the sale of the house, it's there.
The house, any other assets, alimony, child custody, child support, all of it will be dealt with in the four corners of this agreement that you enter
Okay,
into.
now, and when they first make that initial agreement, whether it's the court makes it on its own or you agree to save the money that you would be paying your attorneys or whatever it is, how do they determine the amount of alimony and how do they determine child support?
So that's a great question, and it's something that people really are interested in hearing about. So New York has statutory formulas for determining both alimony and child support. The formulas are different for each, but when you run them and you take both spouses' incomes and run them through the formula, and you'll get a number that is the presumptively correct amount of either alimony or child support. Now, the caveat there is that the court can deviate from those amounts if you show good reason, and the amounts are capped at certain levels of income.
What would be a good reason that they would maybe deviate from it?
A good reason for deviation would be, let's say, for example, you have a child who has special needs and has additional monetary financial requirements. Then a court might say, well, you know what, in this case, we're going to raise child support to a higher amount than it would normally be. That would be a good example of a court deviating.
All right, so now you got your agreement in place. Billy is shared in terms of custody.
Sure.
It's joint custody, let's say 3 days, 4 days, whatever it is.
Sure.
And a certain amount of child support's being paid, and you're giving your ex-spouse, wife or husband, a certain amount of money per month, right?
Yes.
It's all there, and everyone's happy. And then it's
Hopefully.
not so happy.
Yeah.
Because what happens that could possibly make somebody say, this isn't fair anymore?
Yeah.
This is garbage.
Yeah.
What happens?
That can happen. I mean, I've literally had that happen 3 days after a separation agreement has been signed. It can be anything from the agreement says that we have to cooperate to choose vacation days with the child. Well, he won't give me my days. She won't allow me to pick November 2nd to be away on vacation. At that point, if they really cannot resolve it and the agreement provides no ways to resolve it, they can go to court again. And they can go in front of a judge, make a motion, and say, this is my position, and you should grant it to me.
When does it become, I know there are two different topics here, but when is it more about money?
Yes.
And when is it more about time spent?
Absolutely. Obviously, those are the two reasons people would want to modify. With money, it's difficult, and I'll tell you why. Because if, let's say, the other spouse is suddenly making 3 times as much as they made during the marriage, and you say, you know what, I should get a piece of that. This is not fair. They are living in opulence, and I'm over here just barely scraping by with the alimony or the child support I get. That's typically not going to be enough for you to get a raise in your alimony and your child support. Just because your spouse is now doing very well, better than they did during the marriage, doesn't necessarily mean you get a piece of that, even though some people might feel that it should mean that.
Well, I think, and I see this sometimes with some of the celebrities especially.
Yeah.
They say, well, Johnny goes over to your house, and now Johnny has the private plane, the butler, and all these things, and now Johnny comes back to me and says, Mom, I don't like hanging out here. I want to stay with Dad.
Absolutely.
And that's a reason to say, hey, jack up my money, Your Honor, right? Don't you think, or no?
From an equitable standpoint, it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? But the court is more looking at what the lifestyle was like during the marriage.
Okay.
So if these children live that opulent lifestyle during the marriage, that's a great argument for saying, look, I should get a lot of child support. And that's why you'll see with very wealthy people paying, up to $10,000, $20,000 a month in child support, something of that nature. But if they make it big after this marriage is over, the court's going to say, these children get to live there. That's it.
Well, a lot of the Bronxites aren't making it so big. So my question to you is, how do you find out if your spouse is making, ex-spouse, is making money off the books, which happens all the time.
Yes.
They're trying to hide income, and all of a sudden, they're living well. They have a couple of more cars than they've ever had, but yet they're not working.
Yep.
How's that happened?
Oh, yes. That's a very, very common scenario in divorces. Luckily, the divorce process provides extensive discovery. And the courts, the judges, are savvy to this idea that off-the-books income exists. And there are red flags for it. If someone owns their own business, for example, you can essentially control what goes on that W-2. And you see it all the time. And the courts see that, and they understand, look, there might be income here. And another red flag would be, let's say you're declaring $40,000 a year in income, and yet your mortgage payment alone is $5,000 a month. Well, that's a red flag that there's money coming in that you're not telling about.
Do you see in your practice also any kind of neglect or abuse, and one parent says, I should have full custody. This is wrong, what's going on here. My kid's, he's not taking a shower or a bath, and I get him, and all these things are happening. Does that?
Absolutely, yeah, that does occur. Those are unfortunate cases, but they are, in some ways, the most important cases that we handle as family law attorneys, is when a child is being mistreated in some way. And there are, luckily, the law does allow for procedures to get that child immediately removed from a home or to have the child placed in a different parent's custody.
Okay, so some tips. Somebody's watching right now. You got a parent who's watching, and they think they're getting the short end of the stick, for their own financial reasons or because they're not getting their spouse isn't giving them the vacation time that you just mentioned. What do you do?
First piece of advice.
First we call you, but then what do we do?
Exactly. First piece of advice, stay off social media. I cannot tell you how many times I see clients venting their anger on social media, and that eventually makes its way into a courtroom, and it looks terrible. If you're displaying your personal business in vehement, angry terms for the world to see, the court is not going to be very happy about that. On the flip side, if you think that your spouse is up to no good, document it. Screenshots. You can make even a little notebook of their behavior, because eventually you are going to need to prove that something's wrong.
Are the judges savvy enough now with social media? I mean, I think we're getting younger and younger in terms of the courts, but That's important, I would assume.
Oh, absolutely. I have seen motions where 10 of the exhibits are Facebook or Instagram posts. Absolutely.
Where do we get you? Quick.
JohnTufelESQ.com is my website. You can call me at 212-867-9123.
And you'll come back, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, well, we have to take a quick break, but don't worry, we'll be back with more of Today's Verdict right after this.
And I can't change, even if I try, even if I wanted to. My love, she keeps me warm. 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 She keeps me warm.
We are neighbors and best friends.
I love my sister.
My heart doesn't see race. Love is love.
Our family is no less than any other family.
Love is kind. Love is patient.
All right, welcome back to Today's Verdict. I'm your host, David Lesch. We are always encouraging you to stay connected. Tweet us at Today's Verdict. For a child to be legally recognized as an adult, they have to go through the process of emancipation. The emancipation process is complicated, but luckily, attorney Sophia Belial is here to guide us through the process. Sophia, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, just so we understand from the onset, we're actually looking at emancipation really from two sides of the coin here.
Yes.
A parent who also may be looking to have their child emancipated, and a child who wants to be emancipated. Could you merely elaborate a little bit on that?
The state of New York has a very strong policy that parents must financially support a child until they're 21. So, from a child's perspective, they are supported by their parents until they're 21, but they might seek emancipation for one of two reasons. The first reason being that they are in fact not supported by their parents. They may be living outside of the home, trying to support themselves, yet they are stuck to the parents and need the parents for consent, or they're just not of the age to sign off on things themselves.
Well, as a parent, because I don't think parents know exactly, when you say that you have to support your child at 21 in New York, does that include college tuition? What does that really include? Giving them a bed, giving them food? Because you know there was a gentleman upstate who was living with his parents till he was 30 years old.
Yes, that's definitely not
right.
okay.
That's
yes.
like 9 years too long for that.
Yes.
But what generally, what are you expecting from your parent? Like, what is your parent responsible for up until the age of 21?
Well, namely child support. Assuming that parents are not together, one parent is going to be obligated to pay child support to the other for 21 years. The child has to be supported by the other parent for 21 years.
Okay, so let's say that doesn't happen now, and little Johnny isn't really getting any money for anything. He's not getting any money from one of the spouses, and maybe, I don't know, maybe his mom has even told him to leave the house.
That is a good case for emancipation.
And how do you do that?
You have to file a petition, but you have to be ready to prove that you're self-supporting, because once again, the state of New York wants your parents to take care of you until you're 21. So you have to prove that you're self-supporting, that you're out on your own, and that the relationship between you and your parents is broken.
When you say self-supporting, how do they find out whether you can necessarily support yourself? Do they just look at your W-2? Do they look at where you're renting? Maybe you need some special needs and you need a little extra money.
They're looking to see that you're working. They're looking to see that you're working. They're looking to see that you tried to obtain a lease or a sublease in your name, that you're on your own, that you're not residing with either parent. If you're working, I mean, they don't expect you to be self-supporting at a high level, of course, because that's not likely if you're essentially a child.
From my perspective, and by the way, I have a 7-year-old who thinks he's 27, and I explained to him that he's not an adult yet, but from my perspective, you expect your child to help out and to do certain things within the home. And when does the parent say, "I've had it"? You're not coming home when you're supposed to be here. You're drinking with your friends, maybe smoking marijuana or something in the house, all illegal or whatever it is. I want you out. I'm going to seek emancipation. When does that happen?
That would be a no-go. That won't
Why is that?
happen because the courts want you to take care of your child until they're 21. This would usually happen in a case where the child leaves, they run away. I'm sure that you've heard of that 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, they run
just
away.
go away.
They go away. And the problem for that child is, well, they might not have ever gotten any support in their mind from their parents. But let's say they want to do the right thing and they want to go to college and you want to fill out a FAFSA. Your parents' income has to be taken into account. But you're not getting any help from your parents. So in that context, that is probably the number one reason why a person would want to seek emancipation.
Now, I understand that there are situations where you really can be considered automatically emancipated. For instance, you get married.
Yes.
Right? You're automatically considered to be
Emancipated, yes.
Go to the military.
Yes.
Right? But just because those things happen, that doesn't speed up the process for you to be able to vote or to do some other things in our state. Am I correct?
Yes,
so
that's true.
A child should understand that. Just because you're emancipated doesn't mean, oh, now I can drink.
No, you certainly are not a full-fledged adult. You just cut that tie between you and your parents that holds you back from doing things that you might otherwise be able to do. For example, going to college. If your parents' income of $50,000 is taken into account, you're not getting as much grant money as you normally would. So you'd want to cut that tie off so that you can just be counted. Your own income can be the only income that's considered, and you can get more financial aid, for example. That's one of the main factors.
Now, I had told you on set I don't see this very often.
Yeah.
We haven't really discussed this topic. What do you usually see when having this come through the office doors? Is it from the child's perspective, from the parents' perspective? Which one, really?
It's usually from the parents' perspective because parents are not always together, child support is ordered, and sometimes the child is emancipated and the child support is going to continue unless the parent goes through the process of stopping it. And I just recently, I had someone come in who just never stopped the clock. The children are 30 years old, 30-something years old, and there's arrears of $40,000 because it wasn't automatic. If you want the courts to recognize that child support is no longer due, that your children are emancipated because either before the age of 21 they got married or they went into the military, or they're past the age of 21, you have to actively go through the process to get the child support to stop.
Where do we find you?
Oh, BelialLaw.com, or you can call me at 646-580-6116.
We got some contact information up there for you. And you're going to come back, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
You
As
have a
soon as
good
you
time?
invite me, definitely did.
Well, of course
Thank
you'll
you.
be invited. Oh, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank our guests for joining us, and of course you, the viewers, for watching. If you missed any part of today's show, be sure to check it out at www.bronxnet.tv. Also remember, if there is a legal issue or topic you'd like to see on a future edition of Today's Verdict, feel free to contact me at davidlesch@bronxnet.org or tweet us at Today's Verdict, and make sure to hashtag Ask Today's Verdict. From myself and all of us at Today's Verdict, always remember, know your rights, know your issues, reach a verdict. We'll see you next time.